And if everybody could please rise for the family.
Please be seated. Afternoon. I'm not saying good afternoon because the traditional Jewish blessing when we meet at occasions like this is not good afternoon. It's not good to see you. Although I have to tell you that filling this room over here means more than you can imagine to the family. And what we say is we shall meet in simchas, nipagesh b'smachot. That we, these moments in which we encounter and in which we face death are the moments that actually push us to live life stronger and better and with a greater zeal to not leave for tomorrow things that can be done today, to love more than we ever did. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. My name is Rabbi Yaron Kapitulnik, and as I was reading the obituary about Stephen, because unfortunately for me, but very fortunate for him, he didn't like rabbis or synagogues too much. So we didn't really get to know each other. I do know some of his family very well. But when I read the obituary, there was a comment there left by Jane Staton who said, Steve had a great sense of humor and loved to laugh, even when his game golf went south. And so I thought I have to start with my rabbi golf joke for him in honor to laugh. We should laugh. It's about the guy who, instead of going to temple like Steve on Yom Kippur, decided to go play golf. And so he goes to the golf, and this guy, unlike Steve, who never had a hole in one, actually hits the first ball on a par 3 and gets a hole in one. And the angels are up in the sky and they're saying to God, God, here's a Jew not going to shul on Yom Kippur. How are you giving him a hole in one? And God says to them, who is he going to tell? So I tell you this story. Because there's a chance that Steve had a hole in one, but he never told. Because you were at temple and he was on the course. Let's leave it at that. If we can leave that memory, that would be great. My friends, the rabbis ask us that when we begin a funeral, we begin it with Psalm 16. Although it's a psalm that speaks of happiness, they say, I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure, for you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful one see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. And many, many people have asked, why do we start a funeral? One of the most difficult things that we have to do in our life with this psalm of joy. Because the idea is that even in these moments, we express gratitude. Rather than lamenting or only lamenting on what we no longer have physically with us, because as I mentioned to you, Mickey, the memories, the love, the joys, the sounds, they remain with us forever. But what we don't have physically, we take this time to force ourselves to actually say thank you. Thank you to begin with, that we had, and I look around, a friend like Steve, that we had a brother like Steve, that we had a brother-in-law, that we had a husband of close to 50 years. 60. Why did I say 50? Close to 60. 61? Yeah. Over 60 years. I only lasted 19, so I can't even imagine. Those are numbers beyond my comprehension. That we had a father like Steve, or a father-in-law, or a grandfather. You're all sitting here. You all have a piece of Steve in you. You are who you are because he was a part of your life. And yes, you have two options. You can say, my life will never be the same, and that is true. But you also have the option of saying, how blessed am I? How fortunate am I to have had this life, to have had Steve be part of my life and to continue. Because I don't like it when we refer to people who die as they are lost. They're not lost. We might not know exactly where he is. We have an idea, but they're not lost. You just carry them in a different way with you. And when we talk about carrying them with us, then of course we immediately think of Psalm 23. You know, we like to think that we live in a modern world, that everything is new and AI and social media, but really human beings have not changed that much in thousands of years. 3,000 years ago, people faced the same uncertainty, the same confusion, the same fears, the same emotions, swirl of emotions that we face when they lost loved ones. And they wrote a psalm. Maybe it was King David who wrote this psalm that is so relevant even to us today. Adonai rohi lo echsar, b'hinot sheyarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenaleni. Please join me as we read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord. You could spend hours just analyzing this psalm. It has such depth to it, such insights. I think it teaches us that we start dying the day we are born. I just came from a meeting with someone who was diagnosed with something he thought, and then he discovered it wasn't, says, oh, I'm not dying. And I said to him, Paul, we all are. All the time. You might not be dying from this, but we all are all the time, every day. This is that valley. We walk through a valley of the shadow of death. But the question is, for those of you who know Johnny Mitchell's song about clouds, is that shadow a bad shadow? Or is that shadow a good shadow? Because the shadow can be a shadow that is cold. The shadow that can be a shadow that blocks our sight from where we're going and what we need to be and who we are supposed to be and do what we're supposed to do. But a shadow can also be the most amazing thing. Remember yourself on a beach day or in the desert or somewhere where suddenly a cloud comes and blocks the sun, and the shadow gives you a sense that you're protected, and the shadow gives you a sense of relief and comfort. It is up to us to decide how we walk through this valley of the shadow of death. Death could be something that causes us to be paralyzed. We could be so afraid of it that we never remember to live. And death could be something that says to us, live like Steve did. Be successful, live life to its fullest, love people, love your friends, love your family, love who you are, love what you do. So much, when I asked you, Mickey, and I told you this, I always like to ask people, not how will you remember Steve, but how would Steve want to be remembered? And I've been doing this for quite a while now. And you told me something that I've never heard before. And I think that's unique and on. And you said, obviously, and not to take away from anyone, many people say they want to be remembered as someone who loved their family. And that's, of course, we should, God willing, I hope that we could all say that. But you said to me, you wanted to be remembered as someone having a special part in every person's life that he met. That is amazing. It's beyond that realm of family. It's this ability to know that I could touch people, I could change people, I can add something to people's life with every little encounter that I have. What an amazing way to be remembered. And that is maybe the next teaching. It says that if you find a staff and a rod to walk down this journey of the valley of the shadow of death, then surely your cup will run over. And I think that we're looking at the two things that were Stevie's rod and staff: his family, his friends, Florida, his golf, the things that really kept him loving life. And so now we know, and I think that everybody, as you'll shortly hear, will say that if we could ask Steve, he will tell you, my cup runneth over. And last but not least, what does it mean to dwell in the house of God forever? Judaism does not believe in a heaven or a hell. Although there is an idea of heaven and hell in Judaism, if you remember, and I don't know what kind of student, his brothers are here. Was Stevie a good student in school? Good. So if you were like Stevie back in those days and you received a report card, you had to walk with the report card in your hand to show it to your creator at home. If, as I'm hearing, Stevie, the way home to meet your creator could be hell, because you have to reflect about, oops, how did I get to this report card? Or it could be heaven because, hey, look, creator, look how well I've done. So maybe as a child, the way home wasn't that happy for Steve. Took him. But when we finish our part on this earth in the way that we recognize it, Judaism tells us that we meet our creator again. We return to God. We're not stuck in a hell or heaven. We just go back to God like a wave returns to the ocean when it crashes on the shore. It disappears from our eyes, and yet it's straight back in the ocean. It's just part. You can't identify the wave because it breaks down back to those molecules of water, but it's back with the ocean. But the way back requires the soul to do a little bit of accounting of the soul. How did I live my life? That is heaven and hell in Judaism. And I know that, and that's why we do this also. This is why we meet here for funerals, because we're going to tell the stories and remind Stevie's soul that he did well, that his report card in our eyes is perfect, and that we pray and we hope, and that's how we'll end today, with the prayer and hope that he is that wave that returns swiftly and fully to God's presence with a great report card and stays in God's presence forever. One last poem that I want to share with you is a poem by Chaim Nachman Bialik, an Israeli, the national poet of Israel. He said, "Achrei moti sifdu li kach," don't worry, I'll translate to English. "After my death, mourn me thus. There was a man, and see, he is no more. Before his time, his life was ended, and the song of his life was broken. Oh, he had one more melody, and now that melody is gone forever, forever." But Chaim Nachman Bialik is not actually right. I don't think he's correct, because the melody remains. The singers change. It is no longer Stevie here to sing the melody of his life, but it is now our turn to sing the melody of his life. You know, rabbis cannot agree about a lot of things. If you've ever been with two rabbis in a room, you'll know that. But there's one thing that they do agree, is that speaking at a funeral of a loved one is the highest level of tzedakah, of kindness and generosity that one can do. And let me just explain before I call on to family members to speak. When we usually do an act of kindness, while we're not supposed to expect a reward, we're human. We like to be thanked. You do something, you expect somebody to say thank you. You go to somebody's child's wedding, you expect them to come to your, not looking at anybody specifically, but yeah, and you go visit somebody in the hospital, you're in the hospital waiting for them to visit you. There's a little bit of kind of like, I did something for you. What are you doing for me? Except for today, in a moment when we'll hear stories from the people who loved Steve the most, we will look at them, we will look at you and know that if he could, he would stand there and say, enough, I want to talk about you. No, not really. Not really. It sounds better than it is, huh? No, yeah. I have to think about that. Yeah, maybe that's not, yeah, no. But he would say thank you. He would say thank you. Yeah, he would, polite he was, yeah. He would say thank you. He can't say thank you. He can't thank you. And so you have this great opportunity right now. As hard as it is, as it being the last thing you wanted to do, to stand here and share with us your memories, the melody of his life. So, Audra, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna start. We are a big family and we were well loved, so you'll see several of us sharing our thoughts. I'm Audra. As you may all know, there are 4 Dunefsky children. I'm number 2. We will all say that we are the favorite, and I can definitely say that we're all right on that. Dad loved us all fiercely, devotedly, and was incredibly generous. While we all have very different personalities and connections with each other and our parents, one thing never varies: our knowledge of how loved we all are and our dedication to them both. The months of his illness were hard for Dad and Mom, and we all tried to be here as much as possible to help and support them both. We know how their community held them up, and we're so grateful for all of you. Dad was passionate about many things. Well, everything really. Passionate is a great word for Dad's entire personality. His mother would tell us Dunefskys are powerful, and she raised a powerful and passionate man. Coffee was his career passion, and he co-founded Empire Coffee in 1984, 40 years ago this year. Empire's Port Chester facility was opened 30 years ago this month, and he has always been so proud of that business. Another passion, as many of you know, was golf. No matter our home in Huntington, where a cathedral ceiling in the living room made it the perfect practice room, shag carpet in the 70s is the perfect fairway, or putting on the patio, he always had a golf club nearby, and living in Ibis on the golf course has brought him years of joy. Dad had many friends, as we can see, and he loved you all fiercely. But his best friends are his brothers, Harvey and Alan, Uncle Harvey, Aunt Marilyn, Uncle Alan and Aunt Francoise meant the world to Dad, and the relationship with his brothers was the foundation of his life. Dad's legacy also includes all of our spouses and partners who he welcomed into the family without hesitation. His nephews and niece are a special part of his legacy as well. Dad's passion for family was most evident in his role as Papa. And our children all have incredible memories of their years spending time at IBIS with Mom and Dad, which they will share with you soon. Their life here at IBIS has been a special place for us all of our lives. And now a little personal story. Their first house in IBIS in Osprey Trace holds so many special memories for our entire family, and I'll share a few. Every time we play Heritage Hole 4, Dad would remind us that this is their hole, as their Ibis Lakes house is at the T, and then up by the green, we would always point out their Osprey Trace house, and remember one of our most joyous moments as a family. Todd and I were here to visit Dad while Mom was out in Utah welcoming our first baby. I say our first baby because the first grandchild is incredibly special for any family, and especially one as close as ours. Perry and Keith's daughter, Nacia, her name means miracle, and for all of us, she really was and still is. So Mom went out to help Perry, and I was here visiting with Dad, so of course we played some golf. And by Heritage Hole 4, I was playing pretty badly, was very tired, and Dad asked me nicely what was wrong with my golf game and why was I so tired. He might have had some directed advice for me on my game. I told him it was because I was expecting Jordan. And that's why I was so off on my golf game that day. Good excuse, right? He was overjoyed. And for the 25 years of Jordan's life, we have always shared that story anytime we putt on that green. He also called Mom on the green. Stopped the game. The Osprey Trace house saw a baby naming ceremony for Jordan, and then our next joyous announcement of Michelle's pregnancy with Madison. Mom and Dad then built their house in Ibis Lakes next, where we have spent many years making memories together, welcoming Matthew, Jesse, Jonathan, you guys are all over the place, Joshua, and Eli. While it was never quiet when we would all visit, it was always special, and the memories will stay with us all forever. Those of you that spent holidays at Mom and Dad's always open table will carry your own memories of those special times spent with the Dunefsky family. Dad's love and devotion to Mom was like no other. He loved her more than anything. And knowing that all of you that love Mom and Dad will continue to be here for her, as we will, is so valuable. To know that she will be supported and loved by all of us as fiercely as he loved her is the legacy we will continue. Thank you. Michelle is going, oh, Perry.
I just want to say a few words. My dad and I are very much alike in many ways. Those of you who know my family. My father and I were very, very close. And we loved each other fiercely, and we fought each other fiercely on many occasions. But the thing is, no matter what, I always knew how much he loved me and he loved us. And no matter what was ever said, it was never truly meant. Because the love was always the most important thing. Mom told me earlier that he had a joke he liked to say. People would say, you know, name a favorite food that starts with the first letter of your name. And my dad would say, Soreo. So on our way here, we were putting things together for the table, and I was like, oh, Mom, we don't have a box of Oreos or a thing of Oreos, because that was indeed one of my father's favorite things. And one of my earliest memories actually was my dad sneaking me Oreos after my mom told me to go to bed and I wasn't allowed to have any more. And my dad he came and he's like, Mary, and our railing was open. And it, you know, we didn't have that many stairs leading upstairs, so he had me like come down a little bit and he like, here. And he slipped me a bunch of Oreos, go to bed. But I think one of the neatest things is that we went on vacation and my husband got new software and Facebook, you know, we put everything down on Facebook and we had all these pictures and we download. And all of a sudden, all the pictures I downloaded are Stephen Dunefsky, including all the pictures of me. But I just want to thank everybody for being here and showing us love, showing my mom love, showing my dad love. We have a family friend who was writing something and she says, I don't know what to say. She said, I guess he just talked loud and loved big. And I was like, that is perfect. So thank you all.
Michelle.
I'm really impressed, Perry, that you didn't have to put reading glasses on. Thank you. It's called being short. Thank you all for being here. I'm Michelle and I am the favorite. No, I'm kidding. I'm the one who lived close by for the last, what was it, 20, how old are you, Madison? 24 years. So, actually had the opportunity to live with mom and dad for about 9 months, with my family, and it was really a special time. But the past, because I'm gonna cry. Perry, you did so good not crying. The past month, watching my dad fight was hard. Sorry. Okay, it caused me to reflect and look back at certain positive memories that I had of him and things about him that some may know and some may not. First of all, he was a teacher, whether you asked for lessons or not. On our drives to Florida and back up to New York, which we did every other year, to visit the grandparents, I remember him teaching me about the passing lane and how to gauge the traffic speed, which I guess in Florida, nobody else knows about the passing lane. He gave golf lessons constantly, again, whether you asked for them or not. He liked to show others how to do things. One memory was, I remember whenever we were having company over, it was, let's all clean the house. And I loved to hose the patio. I would never get all the way through because he wanted to then show me how to hose the patio. And then I never got to finish because we never gave the hose back. But that's okay. He did it his way. He was very particular about his appearance. And as you can see, and mom even said just the other day, he was so good looking. And with his coiffed hair. I loved when I was younger, watching him shine his shoes. He had such a great way of kind of with his shoebox and shining his shoes, ironing his clothes when he worked at Savrin. Cutting his cuticles, doing his pedicures. He was, you know, it was nice to know he would like to take care of himself. He even had a way of brushing his hair back in such a special way, and even did it last week, even with everything he was going through. And when I smell Clubman talc, it smells just like him when I was younger. He loved his family. He loved to brag about his kids and his grandkids. He was a little overbearing. He would even call us to warn us the weather was not good, even when we did not live in the same state. But it was because he cared and he was scared because he never wanted anything to happen to us. He loved sports, golf the most, but growing up, he was a big Ranger fan. And if you had the opportunity to sit on the couch watching a game with him, and if they scored or they were winning, you were not allowed to move. You had to stay there until something happened because he was superstitious. He always had, as Audra was mentioning, an area to swing a golf club. Yes, our living room had no furniture, but it was the perfect practice area, which later was that outside patio. So we grew up with the plastic golf balls and the rubber golf balls and everything all over, and you would find him in random places. Even regarding golf, as he got more and more into golf, when I was in high school and even came home from college, my curfew, which Adam was saying didn't have a curfew, but my curfew was based always on how early the tea time was in the morning. So it changed constantly. I always had to let him know when I was home and set the alarm. So couldn't stay out too late. My dad was very smart. He was amazing at crossword puzzles. It was amazing to watch his mind work. He had an amazing memory. He would remember faces. He would, anywhere, he would tell people where they were from. And sometimes I find myself doing that too. And I said, I got it from dad. He really always never forgot a pretty face, but that was all good too. That was my dad. He was very artistic. He was very crafty. A lot of people who know him at this point of his life didn't realize he made these beautiful 3D pieces. When he was younger, he was a window dresser, a window display designer. He built things in Huntington in our basement. He had a whole workshop. He did things with Adam, with the Derby and with cars. So he really had a whole other kind of crafty side. And now as he got older, turned into fixing golf clubs in the garage. So I probably could talk more and tell so many more stories, but I know we don't have all day. So lastly, he was my dad. He was such a good man. And I'm the person I am because of him. So thanks, Dad, for everything. Oh, who's talking next, Maddie? Who? Oh, Nacy is coming up next.
Sorry, I'm a
I see the generational gap.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, hey.
Paper to phone.
Paper to phone, all right. I don't even have a printer, all right. Hello, everyone. My name is Nacia, and I'm Steve's oldest grandchild. So that means for about 6 months, I was his favorite grandchild. Some would say also his least favorite, then, but I don't think so. Papa was a large presence in my life, in all our lives. It wasn't hard because he was a large man with a large voice and a large personality. My earliest memories are of his booming voice welcoming me and my brothers when we came to visit, and of his booming voice telling me and my brothers that we're too effing loud. There's so many things I could say about Papa. I could talk about his love of ordering weird things on Amazon for all of us. I could talk about his love of golf, talk shows, or Jeopardy. I could talk and talk and talk, but the one thing that was most important to me was Papa's love for all of us. Because that's what it was when he would give me a hammer for my car, just in case a bridge collapsed and I needed to break a window. It was love when he would let me change his oh so precious golf so I could show him a TV show and he would fall asleep 6 minutes into it. And it was love when he took me golfing and my partner Joe golfing, and Joe was good at golf and then I was terrible at golf, and it was love when he told me so. So Papa, I just want to thank you for all these years of love. We may have fought quite often, and I may have called you a bad word once, but I still have that shirt you got me to commemorate the occasion. I will carry your love with me for the rest of my life. Rest easy, Papa. I love you.
Hi. Ooh, that's gonna be hard. So my brother and I were lucky enough to be raised right down the road from my grandparents. Some would say that we were the favorites. Every week on Sunday at 6 p.m., because he had to go to bed early, we would have dinner. Now, if you knew my grandfather, you know that there was never a dull or even quiet moment. Our dinners were always filled with laughter because of his jokes. For instance, even look at the time of the service being at 2:30, because he would say that was the best time to go to the dentist. You guys get it? 2:30, get it? There is also some Jewish education involved. For example, did you know that Pink, the singer, was Jewish? Because I, for one, did not know that until he told me. My grandfather was also great at giving little to-go gifts almost every time I left one of these dinners, such as a napkin holder that goes around your head and clips on your napkin. Or this light that magnetically goes on your car and lights up just in case you're on a Florida windy road. My grandfather loved Amazon. Like with all families, there was also sometimes some yelling, such as him telling me to get off my phone or for everybody to shut the F up. At the time, I'd get mad. But when I found out that he passed, I started laughing because that was how he showed that he loved you. No matter if he was telling you maybe you shouldn't eat that or why are you wearing that shirt, it's just because he cared, and he always cared about what you looked like and how you took care of yourself. I will miss the cartoon elephants he used to draw and the golf playing in the background at my grandparents' house. The way he said Baruch atah Adonai. I will also miss the way he looked at my grandma. He spent his days with the love of his life. And I'm glad I grew up watching that. Sorry. My grandfather was proud of his family and never let anybody forget it. So I'm proud that I got to call him my grandfather, and I'll never forget it and let any of you guys forget it. Papa, me and Josh love you very much, and you'll never be forgotten by us. Rest easy. I love you. Sorry.
I printed this on Papa's printer. I used his computer to do it, yeah. Hi, we are the good kids, the real favorites. Jordan, I'm Jessie, and this is Eli, and we are the second, fifth, and the youngest of Papa's grandchildren. Growing up, coming to Florida was always the best time of the year. If you asked us all, we would say it was our favorite place to visit, truly our second home. Actually, funny story, my mom wanted me to add this. My mom and dad were so excited to move back to New York after college and live near Nana and Papa, and they couldn't wait to raise their children near them. And right before I was born, they decided to move to Florida full time. What they didn't know was that Nana Papa would always go out of their way to make sure we had many fun things to do because we'd always come on our school vacations since we lived in Connecticut. Some of our oldest memories were having sleepovers with them whenever they would come back to New York in the apartment they built above the factory. While most of the time we would come down to Florida, they always made sure to come up whenever we had a big event. All of our graduations and bar and bat mitzvahs and even small things like, sorry, like
Grandparents' Day in elementary school. We each had a special relationship with Papa. Jordan and Papa had a shared love of Jeopardy and crossword puzzles. In fact, she even wrote him a custom crossword puzzle. Papa and I had a different type of bond.
Oh, it was me. Papa and I had a different type of bond. He would always say that if he ever wanted to talk to one of us, he would call me because I'm the one that would answer my phone. Eli and Papa, no shock here, were very connected through golf. Papa has tried many times to convince Eli to quit all of his other sports and focus on golf. My father, Todd, has been a part of our family since the Dunefsky family since my parents were in college. In fact, my mom met him her first week of her freshman year, which means my father has known Papa since he was 19, Eli's age. My father, who grew up in a small town Southern boy in North Carolina, who had never even heard of the bagel before, went and lived with my Nana and Papa in their Long Island house while my mom was finishing up grad school and learned firsthand what it is to be a part of the Dunefsky family, and he has never forgotten. When Empire opened their factory, Papa gave him an opportunity that has lasted, as my dad has worked at Empire for 30 years this year. Papa was not just his father-in-law, but a full father figure, mentor, and friend, and he truly treated him as a son, and my dad loves him for that. We all cherish every minute we have spent with Papa and appreciate all that he has done for us, and we'll miss him. We love you, Papa. Love Todd, Audra, Jordansky, Jessica, and Eli Lucas.
And Mickey.
Is why he loves living here. And his whole life, he just adored being part of not only ours, but this whole. Well, whether he knew you well or not, you all meant so much to him. And his whole life here, the last 27 years, was because of you. So thank you all. I appreciate it. I do. I saw this game. Who knows?
Very few people can sit like this and look at children and grandchildren that come and speak of their dad and grandfather with so much love. You're a very lucky woman, and I know that you know that. And I know that you also know that we're all here for you, and we will be and continue to be. I'm almost a little bit mad because I heard all these amazing stories, and I couldn't you drag him to synagogue? I would have, I know. So Michelle, we needed more than two more mitzvahs. No, because so I wanna leave you with two, having not really had a chance to know him, to leave you with two messages that are coming into my mind. One has to do with a funny story that I think you would appreciate. It's a story about two twins that are in their mother's womb for 9 months. And one says to the other, "Hey, do you think this is it?" And so the embryo says to his brother, "Yeah, I mean, we've been here for 9 months. It's very comfortable. We have everything we need, all the food, all the water, the company. It's great. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else." Is that really? But this is the meaning of it all. We just have to be here in this place. There's nothing. He says, "I don't know. No one ever left this womb and came back to tell us that there's something outside." I mean, he says, and do you think there's such a thing as mother? I mean, we keep hearing this. We feel there's a sense that there's something greater than us outside, but I heard these rumors about mother. Do you think there's such a thing? And I think you understand where this story is going, because a few more weeks pass and suddenly there's some pressure and some pain, and a tunnel opens and there's light, and one of the twins is pulled out, and the first twin is left inside, and all he hears is crying, and he's terrified. And that's a little bit a metaphor for where we are. We live in this womb, and we have everything we feel we need. We hear rumors about this creator outside, but none of us ever left and came back to tell us that mother really exists. And when suddenly this pain comes and a tunnel is open and light, like we see in the movies, and someone is taken away, all we're left with is the sound of cries. But we forget that this is the sound of a creature meeting its creator. That Steve right now, even though he didn't believe in it, is where he's supposed to be with his creator. And I think, we all know the Leonard Cohen song that says, it's only when there's cracks the light can come in. A lot of us, we live in this cynic world. We live in this world where we kind of tend to forget what really matters. And we concentrate a lot on material things, we forget about the experiences, we forget about the relationships, we forget about maybe humbling ourselves to something that is greater than ourselves. Let this moment, in Steve's honor, let this moment humble us a little bit to focus on what really matters, to not measure each other by how big the house is or how big the diamonds are or what car we drive or how many spaces or places we've been. Because if you've listened carefully, all I heard in the eulogies was the word love, love, love. I didn't hear diamonds. I didn't hear cars. I didn't hear square footage. I didn't hear first-class business. I didn't hear none of that. I just heard love, love, and love. So let this moment humble us, and let this moment refocus us on what's important. What is important is love. So I want to leave you with this beautiful poem by Merritt Malloy. It's called When I Die. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the streets besides you. And when you need me, put your hands around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Listen carefully. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that is left of me is love, give me away. So you all love Steve so much, and you want to call him and you want to talk and you want to get another lesson asked or not asked for. And you can't, but take that love, take that energy and just direct it to each other, direct it to people around you, direct it to your communities, direct it. We all know this world needs a lot of healing, and you could take all this love in this room and use it. That would be a great way to honor Steve. And last and not least, and I know some of you are gonna roll your eyes, but those who will listen will look for me a year from now and you'll thank me. When you leave here today, get in your car, and before you turn it on because you want the AC, but before you pull back, take out your phone and choose 6 random dates. We're in April, May now. June 9th, October 17th, December 3rd, February 1st. 5 different days. 9 a.m. is a good time. Anywhere after 9 a.m. Put there in your phone, call Mickey. Okay? Just put it there. It will take you no more than a minute. 5 random days. I know many of you will stay in touch all the time, but life pulls us in different directions. We get busy. We get with our own tsuris. You will be grateful that suddenly this on your phone, it's going to pop up and say, you know what, I haven't actually talked with her in a week or 2 or 3. I don't know, things happen. We traveled, she traveled, I was there. Please, please, please. The best way to love Steve is to surround Mickey with lots of love, especially in the next coming year. And so we will conclude not before telling you that after we finish here, the family is hosting a reception for friends at the club, at Ibis Club. Tomorrow, there will be Shiva between 6 and 8 o'clock with services at 6:30. And that will be your opportunity to come today at the reception and tomorrow at Shiva to share your own stories about Steve. And 1 and 3, the next tomorrow, 1 and 3 and 6 and 8, service at 6:30, Friday, 1 to 3. And the reception today. And then 6 times in the next year, at least in your phones. There's about 100 of us, that's 600 phone calls. You'll be good. You'll be fine. That's an average of 2 a day. You'll be good. They will not. Please rise. Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Shlomo ben Pesach Velili, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. El male rachamim, shochein bamromim. המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת שלמה בן פסח ולילי שהלך לעולמו. בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, and may he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We conclude with the Kaddish. Again, we say, Steve, Lech ki shilchecha Adonai, go your way, for God has called you. Lech v'yehi Adonai imcha, go your way, and may God be with you. והלך לפניך צדקך כבוד אדוני יאספך. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך רעותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה על שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, to which we say amen. I'll ask you to please remain standing as the family exits, and I believe this concludes our services here today. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for their attendance. Now we're certainly ready to thank you.
We'll just let the family go up, and then please. Thank you. Thank you all.